Okay, today I'm going to talk to you about renewable energy sources. We're going to look at what is meant by renewable energy. We're going to look at 5 different types of renewable energy, and for each one we're going to have a look at their advantages and the disadvantages. So first of all, renewable energy source is an energy source that won't run out. So it's a way of generating electricity that we could use again and again and again. They are much better for the environment than using non-renewable energy. I've done a different video about non-renewable energy when you could learn about non-renewable energy. Now also, compared to the downside of them is the fact that they don't currently, with current technology, produce as much energy as non-renewable energy sources. So that is one of the negatives. So the first one we're going to learn about is a type of renewable energy source called biofuels. Now, whenever you see the prefix bio, it means living things. So what biofuels are is generating electricity from plants and also from animal dung. Now, to get the energy from them, this, for example, with the plants, they're grown, harvested, and then they are burnt to release energy, and so is the dung. To find out exactly how electricity is generated from burning them, please watch another video about non-renewable energy, because it's similar to how you get electricity from burning coal. So an advantage of this is of burning plants and biofuels is that it's carbon neutral. Now this might sound weird because when you burn it, it does release carbon dioxide. The reason why this doesn't cause an overall net increase in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is during the plant's lifetime, they take in carbon dioxide through the process of photosynthesis. So when you burn the plants, it just returns the CO2 to the atmosphere. Also, the plants could be grown at certain times during the year and then stored for later. The negative side about biofuels is it's a very expensive way to generate all of your electricity. Also, a big problem is by growing all of these crops in fields, it takes up valuable space which could be used to grow food. So those are the issues with biofuels. The next type of renewable energy source we're looking at is wind power. Now you probably have seen wind turbines in fields before that look a little bit like my drawing here. So basically the way that it operates is you have a turbine which turns when the wind hits the turbine. It is then connected to this part here, which is called a generator, which generates electricity. Now the positive things about wind power, just like many of these types of renewable energy, is they don't release any carbon dioxide, so they don't release any pollutants into the air. Also, once it's built, it actually has cheap running costs. So it's not expensive once the actual turbines are built in the first place. Now, a few people complain that they think they're ugly and noisy. They can also be quite expensive to build in the first place. Now, the big negative when it comes to wind power is it must be windy in order for them to work. So on a really non-windy day, they're not going to be generating much energy, if any energy at all. The third one we're going to learn about are called solar cells. So solar cells, you've probably seen these on the roofs of certain houses. But essentially, the way that it works is you have light, so usually sunlight, that hits these solar cells and it converts that energy directly to electricity. Now, the advantages of this is you can have these solar cells in really remote places where other types of electricity generation would not be suitable. They're also, once they're built, they are extremely cheap to run. So once they're built, it's essentially not having to spend much money on the upkeep of them at all. Now, the massive negative about solar cells is they do not work at night time. When there is no sunlight, to hit the cells, obviously there'll be no electricity being generated. The other big problem with them is they're really expensive to make in the first place. So once they're built, they're really cheap to run, but it's expensive to make them initially. The next type of renewable energy is hydroelectric power, hydroelectric or hydroelectricity. So the way that hydroelectric power works is this. There's what happens is there's a river. What people do is they build a dam across the river, and this dam causes flooding of the area behind. What then happens is at a slightly different level, so like at a lower level, the river continues underneath. So what happens for hydroelectricity is water is let through the dam, and within the dam there are lots of turbines, a little bit like in wind power, but there are turbines in the dam that turn when the water drops through. So essentially that's how hydroelectric power works. Now the positive side of it is hydroelectric power is really good for meeting energy demand. So for example, if a city suddenly needed lots and lots more electricity, they just let more water pass through the dam, turning the turbines at a faster rate or a greater rate, producing more electricity. They're also extremely reliable. Now the downside of them is, first of all, it causes the destruction of habitats. That's where animals live. So when we initially build the dam and flood the surroundings, it basically destroys lots of animals' habitats. It's also extremely expensive to build one of these dams in the first place. Now the final type of renewable energy we're going to look at are tidal barrages. Now a tidal barrage works like this. Here I have a river meeting the sea. So this bit here, where I'm shading in green, this is the land, and this bit here is the sea. So where you have the river meeting the sea, you have an estuary, which is just the name of the bit where the river meets the sea. And the tidal barrage is built over the estuary. Now the way that it works is, again, we have turbines within the dam that turn when the tide comes in and when the tide goes out. Now the positive side of them, again, is they're very reliable, because the tides are very reliable. We can rely upon the tides, unlike, for example, the wind. Like many of these different types of energy, they release no CO2 once they're built. Now, the negative points about tidal barrages, similar to hydroelectric, is it can often damage animals' habitats, destroy their habitats, that's where they live, when it's built in the first place. The other negative point about tidal barrages is it really affects boat access up and down the estuary. So guys, that is basically a summary of 5 different types of renewable energy, their advantages and their disadvantages. Thank you.